just 3 more games left. 3 more games left until the season of hell. The season of the failure to finish the story is almost done and over with. And then we can focus on what really matters. The offseason, the draft, where Kyle Shanahan can finally draft an offensive lineman, hopefully. But nonetheless, we have to endure these final 3 games left of the 2024 San Francisco 49ers. And first, they have to travel to South Beach, where they have to take their talents, or whatever's left of it, to take on the Miami Dolphins. So, if you want to be as delusional as possible, this is basically, quote-unquote, must-win game for whatever people that have those hopes left. I don't know why, but, well, basically a game where the loser of this one is officially eliminated from playoff contention. So, whoever, it's a quote-unquote win or go home game for both of these teams. So, whoever's going to be desperate enough to win this game gets to keep their playoff hopes alive, delusional as they be, for one more week until they realize, okay, they're over and done with. So, yeah, the Niners, though, they really need this loss. So, they can finally turn their attention fully to the offseason, focus on who can we keep, who can they delete from this cursed-ass group. So, that's why I say, hashtag lose them all, pal. Lose them all, pal. And we can focus on the offseason. So these final 3 games, in my opinion, should be focused, lean towards who should be around, especially the young players, who should be these core group of guys going to next year. Like, who can we build around? You know, the couple of people that I personally would like, you know, Malik Mustafa, George Kittle, Dre Greenlaw, and of course Brock Purdy, obviously. Ricky Pearsall, you know, I'd like to see some of these guys, you know, get some reps, you know, young talent, like that you could keep around or get rid of, you know, in these final 3 games of the year. Make it like a little bit of an audition period for some of these talent that haven't seen the field yet. And then let these vets, you know, that have been struggling or, you know, that have been playing through injury, you know, just shut them down. Just stop letting them play. It's like there's no point of letting them play anymore. It's like you don't want to risk any significant injury that could keep them out for next year. Like, it's not worth it anymore. So, and that's just not going for my 49ers. This is also going for the Miami Dolphins or any other team out there that's basically out of playoff contention. And I get it, it's a pride thing, but you're just risking your own health at this point. So looking back at the week that was for both of these teams, for both of them, is basically a must-win game for as delusional as they were, especially for my San Francisco 49ers. They basically had one last chance to keep their delusional NFC West hopes alive, which basically died 3 weeks ago in the snowstorm in Buffalo, where they got smashed and stacked. So they tried to keep their hopes alive, but they let it get poured down. They let it get rained down in that low-scoring affair to the Rams. They lost that one 12-6 at home, getting swept by them for the first time in forever. And it was a game where the defense pretty much did the heavy lifting until the fourth quarter. But why was the defense doing everything? Because the offense, especially Brock Purdy, they couldn't do anything for the majority of the game. Brock Purdy and that offense, they had a chance to try and do something, but they couldn't. And they actually had their best chance to score late in the fourth quarter and take the lead in the game. But Purdy threw a very bad interception in the end zone to Darius Williams that basically sealed the game and sealed their season for good. Meanwhile, for the Miami Dolphins, they had their own remaining playoff hopes dashed in the wind as well in their own disappointing performance against CJ Stroud and the Texans. They lost 20-12 in that one. Tua, he had played relatively okay to very solid, and he stayed relatively healthy since returning from another bad concussion in Week 8. But the outlier to his good performances has been against bottom-tier teams in the NFL. And once again, the case was for against the Houston Texans, he crumbled against better teams. He crumbled with 3 turnovers, 3 back-breaking interceptions, including 2 in the fourth quarter against Derek Stingley Jr. That sealed the game, including 1 at the end. So yeah, Miami Dolphins, yeah, they still have a shot, but again, going back to my earlier point, do these teams really want to keep fighting for a win and only to get eliminated the next week? Like, stop messing around here, pal. So basically, like I said, the loser of this game is officially eliminated for playoff contention. For my 49ers, though, they need this loss more so they can finally focus on what really matters, the offseason. So looking back at the week that further back in this week that was, if you want to look at some positives for the 49ers, the Dre Greenlaw's return, much needed because, it's a defense that could have been, had he not tore his Achilles, because when he returned in that game against the Rams, it was like a breath of fresh air. It was like he was moving around, he was flying around, making plays, making tackles. It's like as if he was never really injured. And yeah, it sucked that he left in the fourth quarter because, it was a little expected because it's his first game back, a bit rusty, a bit sore, and that was expected. And he's expected to play in this game against the Dolphins, despite the sores in his Achilles. As long as they know what they're doing with him, as long as they're managing him well, I'm okay with it, despite me being initially against it. But as long as they know what they're doing, and especially if they get eliminated this week, I just hope they manage his reps well and don't risk further overloading him. And then, of course, we all know about the suspension of Devondre Campbell after his dumbassery, him quitting on the team. Yeah, what a selfish jerk, So I'm not going to really expand on that further because he doesn't deserve to be talked about. It's already been over a week since that happened, so you all can hear all that talk about by other people. So going into the injury report for this week for my San Francisco 49ers, we already know how beat up they are at this point, and it doesn't get any better. Isaac Rendo's out this week with a hamstring injury, barring some miracle that he does play. But nonetheless, as of right now, he is out with a hamstring injury, rendering the offense a passing-only offense, basically, unless they start using Debo as the wide back again. So, yeah, we lost Christian McCaffrey. They lost Jordan Mason. Now you're down to Isaac Rendo out, guys. Isaac Rendo. You're going to go to Patrick Taylor and the just running back that they signed earlier this year. And then, of course, Debo Samuel. Yeah. There's no pass. There's no running game anymore. And then on the offensive line, it looks like they're gonna shut down Trent Williams at some point. In one of these last 3 games. So honestly, yeah, I wouldn't blame them. There's not really any point to bringing back Trent anymore with that ankle injury. Meanwhile, for the Miami Dolphins, Jalen Waddle looking unlikely to play with that knee injury he suffered in the Texans game. So more emphasis on Jonnu Smith and Tyreek Hill. And then on the offensive line, Teron Armstead looking 50-50 to play with that knee injury. Looking at the keys to victory for both of these teams, if they really that desperate and lower their draft stock, lower their draft positioning. For my San Francisco 49ers, you got to pressure up Tua Tagovailoa. Tua really crumbles under the weight of heavy pressure against good to great defensive lines. Now, I'm not saying that the Niners are a great defensive line this year because they're not, clearly. They're totally beat up. But even at less than 100%, this is something the Niners may be able to do because Tua has a big tendency to hold on to that ball too long. So if they can somehow manage to pressure up Tua, then I think they can have a shot at, for whatever reason, winning this game, even though they shouldn't. Meanwhile, on the offensive side of the ball, I'd like to see more focus, more emphasis, more targets towards Ricky Pearsall and Jacob Cowning. Stop force feeding the ball to Debo Samuel. And of course, I would also like to see more targets, of course, lean back towards George Kittle and Jawan Jennings. But at this point in the year, though, I would like to see Kyle Shanahan, redirect his focus to feeding the ball to Ricky Pearsall and Jacob Cowning because I like to see what they have at this point in the year. So we can find out, can they be something to offer in year 2, in 2025? Can they? We'll see. Especially, with Purdy lining up to get that big fat contract extension next year. And him possibly not having Ayuk next year with that injury. You might as well start feeding him new targets. Meanwhile, for the Miami Dolphins, on the offensive side of the ball, pretty much everything offensively. Go heavy with the running game of Devontae Ancient and Raheem Mostert, as it has been all season with this Niners offense. The Niners defense, sorry. The running defense has been one of their major weaknesses. And while the running game for Miami hasn't been a big emphasis in the last few weeks, the Dolphins should utilize it more to set up a bigger day for the passing game, because in general, you want to have a good running game to set up your passing game. And that's what the Dolphins should really do against a weak Niner run defense. And then, speaking of the passing game, you got to get something going for Tyreek Hill and Jonnu Smith. And I get Tyreek Hill's battling through a wrist injury, but both of them had very quiet games in the last week or two, especially with Jalen Waddle unlikely to play with the knee injury, and who knows if he'll be able to play in these last 3 games at all. But you're not going to have Jalen Waddle in this game if you're Miami. So Tua has to redirect his focus towards feeding Tyreek, feeding Jonnu Smith, who's had somewhat of a breakout in the second half of the season. So you got to direct your way towards both of them more, especially Tyreek. Like, this is a dude that used to be one of the best receivers in the NFL. And now he's like kind of a ghost in some way or another. So you got to feed them. You got to go to them more, and they should. So looking at both these teams right now, yeah, it's just kind of like a lose 'em game. It's like someone has to lose here, right? It certainly should be my team. Yeah, the team that should hashtag lose them all, pal. Lose them all for my San Francisco 49ers. But, hell, it's any game is Sunday, I guess, even if you're hashtag losing them all. And it better be my 49ers because, yeah, I want that top 12 draft pick. That's the ultimate goal for these final 3 games. Getting that top 12 draft pick, or at least, top 15. I don't care. I want Kyle Shanahan to realize he needs to build up that O-line, pal. Enough of the skilled players. I want an O-line in that first round, pal. Give it to me. So, and why is this on a late Sunday afternoon? Like, what? Why did the NFL decide to keep this game in the Sunday afternoon slot? Like, couldn't you have moved it in the early morning portion? Flex another game in our spot in the late afternoon slate? What's wrong with you? What's wrong with the NFL? Anyway, I don't know, man. So let me know your thoughts on this upcoming game between the Miami Dolphins and my San Francisco 49ers in what's basically I don't know, what do you want to call it? A must win or winner go home. Hashtag lose them all game for my San Francisco 49ers. Let me know your predictions, what you're looking for at this point for both of these teams in the comments below. And we'll recap it per usual, even though there's not really much to talk upon with both of these teams basically out of the playoff picture. But hey, we still like talking about my San Francisco 49ers here on Very Cold Lasagna, even if they're basically out of the playoff picture. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. But until we recap this game, keep the lasagna very cold in the fridge with your takes on the world of sports. Until I see you, when I see you in the next one, peace out.